I have a thought. What if that voice in your head, the one that tells you that you're not ready, you're not capable, or you're not good enough, isn't actually the thing that's holding you back? What if the real problem is actually the way that you've been taught to deal with it? If you're new here, hi, I'm Krithi. I'm a data scientist by profession. And on this channel, we decode psychological frameworks for lasting change. And we also talk about practical strategies for ambitious 9 to 5 professionals who want to sustain high performance without burning out. Okay, so let's jump right into it. For years, the dominant advice has been quite simple: ignore that voice, think positive thoughts, or override it with confidence and affirmations, and treat yourself because you deserve it. And sure, on the surface, it sounds right. Why would you listen to a voice that constantly doubts you? But here's what I think most people don't realize: if that voice was truly useless, it wouldn't be so persistent. It wouldn't show up precisely in the moments that matter. And it definitely wouldn't feel so convincing. So instead of asking how to get rid of it, there's a better question that you need to be asking. What is it actually trying to tell you? Because once you understand that, the dynamic shifts. You stop feeling controlled by your thoughts and you start using them as information. So here's the common misconception: most people experience their inner critic as self awareness or something that defines who they are. Now, this voice, it sounds something like, you're not ready for that. Who's going to listen to you? What if you fail badly? And naturally, most of us tend to interpret that as the truth because it's so close to us. And we also find ways to rationalize it. We tell ourselves why these kind of thoughts make sense, and it's based on some historical experience. Or maybe you've even judged others for doing stuff like that, and now that same voice is holding you back from doing it too. But here's where this really starts to matter, right? The voice doesn't go away no matter how much you tell yourself that you don't want something, because that voice was designed to protect you from doing the hard thing and facing its consequences. Let me give you an example from my own life. I wanted to start a YouTube channel 5 years ago, but I just didn't feel like I had what it took. Instead of actually building the skill and working towards starting it then, I would tell myself things like, I'm doing quite fine. I don't need a YouTube channel. Or look for other external validation like titles, achievements, anything that could reassure me that I was doing just fine. And it would work for a while, but then that voice would come back. Because deep down, I wasn't really addressing this need that I had to develop the skill and put myself out there. I was just trying to cover it up because it is hard and it comes with a lot of responsibility. And so when you're consistently running away or avoiding this inner critic, that's when you start to feel inconsistent, like you don't trust yourself or like you're an imposter of some kind, like you're performing confidence instead of actually having it. So everything in my life started to change when I stopped trying to silence this voice and decided to engage with it instead, to actually listen and see what it was pointing to, and then move forward differently with that awareness. Here's what your inner critic actually is: it's not random. It comes from a pattern built over time. Every time you experience failure, rejection, or embarrassment, or even subtle judgment, your brain stored that as data in a way that prevents you from experiencing it again. So now, when you're about to take a risk, whether it's speaking up, starting something new, or just putting yourself out there, that voice shows up to stop you. And this is why trying to silence that voice by staying the same doesn't work. You're dealing with a protective mechanism that's so convincing you believe it. So here's the shift. Usually, most people only have two responses to their inner critic: they either believe it or they avoid it from coming up. But both of these can keep you stuck. One, interpret it, and two, work towards overcoming it. Get curious. What is this thought pointing to? Why is it coming up? And when you ask that question, you can start to decode it. For example, let's say the thought is, you're going to mess this up. Pause and ask yourself, what specifically am I afraid will go wrong? What's the worst that could happen? Is it that you're afraid of how others will perceive you? Or is it that you don't trust your current level of skill? Because once you identify that, the thought stops being so overwhelming. You now see it as information that you can work with, and it almost becomes a problem that you have the control to solve for. But I also want to say that there's a fine line between obsessing over your flaws and never feeling good enough, and just staying stuck because you're avoiding facing this voice altogether. This isn't about chasing perfection. You're not trying to fix yourself into some flawless version before you act. It's about believing that you are enough as you are and still choosing to move forward with curiosity and humility about where you can improve. This is the growth mindset. It's the willingness to see yourself clearly and take action. Now, here's why this builds self trust. When you start working with your inner critic, you become more aware of your own patterns. You start noticing what triggers hesitation. You understand where your limits actually are and where they're just assumptions. And over time, this helps build a different relationship with yourself. You start to trust that when resistance shows up, you can handle it and you can act despite it. It's not always easy. Sometimes it's a painful process to actually face your own shortcomings. But when you decide to do that, that shift alone changes the relationship that you have with yourself. Confidence comes from understanding yourself well enough that you don't let doubt control you and you can act despite it. So here's the takeaway: you're not trying to become someone who doesn't have an inner critic. That's not even realistic. What you're trying to become is someone who understands it, not avoids it. Someone who can hear the thought and not be defined by it. Because the moment you learn to do that, you're no longer stuck in reaction. You start operating with more awareness. And that's where real change starts. Not when the voice disappears, but when it stops having control over you. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this perspective. And if this video helped you think differently, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.